If you have been taking the same pill every night for months or years to help you sleep, and that pill seems to be working less and less well over time, your body is telling you something specific. It is not that you need a stronger dose. It is not that your insomnia has gotten worse. It is not that you are now too dependent on the pill to ever stop. It is something more interesting than any of those, and something almost no patient has been told. The pill that helped you sleep when you first started it is no longer the same pill in your aging brain. And the longer you take it, the more it actively works against the very sleep it was meant to help. The mechanism behind this is one of the quietest stories in older adult medicine, and it is the reason that millions of older adults, taking what they believe is a harmless nightly aid, are slowly losing the sleep they think the pill is providing. Today I want to walk you through what is actually happening in your brain when a sleep aid is taken night after night for years, why the effect changes over time in a way that surprises both patients and doctors, and the specific approach that the research now supports as the better long-term answer. I am Dr. Carter. 20 years of geriatric medicine has taught me to be most suspicious of the medications patients have been taking the longest. Because the dose has not changed, the pill has not changed, but the body around the pill has changed, and the brain has adapted, and the original effect is no longer the effect the patient is getting. Stay with me, because what I am about to describe applies to nearly every type of sleep aid on the market, prescription or over-the-counter, and is one of the most important things any long-term sleep medication user should understand. Let me start with the question that has probably brought you to this video. Which pill am I talking about? Honestly, almost any of them. The benzodiazepines like lorazepam and temazepam, the newer Z drugs like zolpidem and esopiclone, the over-the-counter antihistamines that contain diphenhydramine or doxylamine, marketed in nighttime pain relievers and PM products. Even melatonin supplements taken in high doses for long periods. They all share a common mechanism in different forms, and they all share the same long-term problem. The mechanism is something called the GABA system. GABA is a chemical messenger in your brain that calms neural activity. When GABA is active, you feel relaxed, drowsy, ready for sleep. Your brain produces GABA naturally on its own sleep schedule, and that natural production is one of the things a healthy sleep pattern depends on. When you take a sleep aid that enhances GABA, you boost this calming signal artificially. The pill works, you fall asleep faster, you feel grateful, but your brain notices. The brain is a remarkable system, and one of the things it is best at is adjusting to keep itself in balance. When an outside chemical regularly enhances GABA from the outside, the brain responds by quietly reducing its own GABA production. It does not need to produce as much. The pill is doing the work. So far, so reasonable. But here is where the story turns. Because once your brain has reduced its own natural GABA production, you now need the pill not just to help you sleep better than baseline, but simply to maintain the sleep you used to have without any pill at all. The pill is no longer adding to your sleep. It is filling in for the GABA your brain stopped making on its own. This is called tolerance. In the early days of the pill, you may sleep deeply. In the months that follow, the same dose seems less effective. You may feel like the pill is wearing off. You may be tempted to take a slightly larger dose or to add a second pill, and the cycle deepens. And here is the part that is most quietly devastating. If you ever try to stop the pill, even gradually, your brain has not yet caught up with restoring its own GABA production. Your sleep gets worse before it gets better. Sometimes much worse. Sometimes for nights or weeks. This is called rebound insomnia, and it is one of the most documented patterns in sleep medication research. The patient tries to stop. The sleep becomes terrible. The patient assumes the pill was actually helping all along and goes back on it. The cycle relocks. The aging brain is especially vulnerable to this pattern for two reasons. First, the aging brain produces GABA slightly less efficiently than a younger brain, even at baseline. So the artificial boost from the pill becomes harder to live without. And second, the aging liver clears these medications more slowly, so the residue lingers longer in the body, and the daytime fog we have discussed in earlier videos becomes a layered problem alongside the nighttime dependence. Rebound insomnia tends to be strongest with shorter-acting medications. The Z drugs are particularly known for this, because they enter and leave the system quickly. The brain feels the sudden absence sharply. The patient feels the consequence acutely. This is why a sudden stop of any long-term sleep medication is almost never the right approach. Not for benzodiazepines, not for Z drugs, not even, increasingly, for melatonin taken at high doses for years. Some of you may already be wondering, is it really worth it to come off, knowing how difficult that transition might be? The honest answer, which the research now supports clearly, is that for most older adults, the answer is yes. The long-term cognitive effects, the falls risk, the daytime fog, the slow erosion of sleep architecture, and the worsening tolerance all argue that staying indefinitely on a sleep aid is almost never the right long-term plan. But the right way out is not a sudden stop. It is a structured, supervised plan. The first step is the conversation with your doctor, with one specific request. I have been taking this sleep medication for a long time, and I would like to discuss a gradual taper combined with non-medication approaches to sleep. I understand that the transition may be difficult, and I want a plan that takes my age and my history into account. That sentence does the work. It names the goal. It signals that you understand this will not be easy. And it asks for a real plan, not just a refill or a stop. The second step is the non-medication approach that the research now supports as the gold standard for chronic insomnia. It is called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia, or CBTI. It is a structured, short-term program, typically 6 to 8 sessions, that addresses the thoughts, behaviors, and habits around sleep that often perpetuate insomnia long after the original cause has resolved. The evidence for CBTI is strong. In multiple comparison studies with sleep medications, CBT1 produces equivalent or better short-term results and significantly better long-term results. And unlike a pill, the effects do not fade with time. They build. CBT1 is increasingly available in person, by video, and through self-guided programs. Many primary care doctors can refer you. Several insurance plans now cover it. If you have been taking a sleep aid for years and are wondering what the alternative looks like, this is it. The third step is patience with the taper itself. Depending on the medication, the dose, and how long you have been on it, a safe taper can take weeks or months. The goal is not speed. The goal is restoring your brain's own GABA production gradually, so that when the pill is fully off, your natural sleep can return. I want to be direct with you, the same way I would be with a patient sitting in my office. This video is not telling you that sleep medications are never appropriate. For short-term use during an acute crisis, they can be helpful. The problem is the use that was supposed to be short-term and quietly became years. It is also not telling you that everyone should come off immediately. For some patients, the right plan is to stay on a low dose, with eyes open about the trade-offs. For others, the right plan is a careful taper. The plan belongs to you and your doctor, not to a video. But the pattern I described, where the pill quietly erodes the natural sleep system it was meant to enhance, is real, documented, and one of the most important things any long-term user should understand. The most dangerous medication in older adult sleep medicine is not the new one your doctor just suggested. It is the one that has been on your nightstand for so long, no one remembers you started it. Here is what we covered. Sleep medications, whether prescription or over-the-counter, work by enhancing a calming chemical in the brain called GABA. With long-term use, the brain reduces its own natural GABA production, leading to tolerance, where the same dose feels less effective. When the medication is stopped, the brain has not yet caught up, leading to rebound insomnia, where sleep becomes worse than before the medication was started. The aging brain is especially vulnerable because natural GABA production is already slightly lower, and the medication lingers longer in the system. This pattern applies to benzodiazepines, Z-drugs, over-the-counter antihistamines, and even high-dose melatonin. The action. If you have been taking a sleep aid for months or years, ask your doctor about a structured taper plan combined with cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, the non-medication approach that the research now supports as the long-term gold standard. And the most important rule, as always, never stop a sleep medication on your own. Several of these can be dangerous to stop abruptly, and the rebound effect can be severe. The plan must be supervised. But here is what I want to leave you with. The pattern in this video, where a medication originally started for a short-term reason, quietly stays on the list for years and slowly changes the body's own systems, is one of the most common stories in geriatric medicine. We have seen versions of it in earlier videos: sleep aids, acid reflux pills, pain medications. But there is one specific category where this pattern is most dramatic, and where the original short-term reason has often resolved within a few weeks. The prescription continues for years anyway, and the body adapts in ways that make stopping particularly difficult, even though the original need has been gone for a long time. In the next video, I will walk you through that category, the specific signs that the original reason has resolved, in the conversation that finally allows the prescription to come off safely. Subscribe so you do not miss it. And if anything in this video gave you something to bring to your next appointment, Send it to one person who needs it: a parent, a spouse, a friend who has been taking the same nightly pill for years and wondering whether it is still helping. The conversation has to start somewhere. It might as well start with you. I will see you in the next one.